recording. And I can start live. Can I start live?
Are
Okay.
we live?
Yes.
We good? Are we live, Amber?
Yes.
We are live. May I begin?
Yes.
Aloha kako. I would like to call today's Public Land Trust Working Group meeting to order. Let the record reflect it is Tuesday, October 17th, and the time is 10:07 a.m. We are recording this remote meeting held by interactive conference technology. The members present in today's meeting are OHA Chair Hulu Lindsay, OHA Vice Chair Mililani Trask, Council Sherry Broder, and Ryan Kanakaole, Deputy Attorney General. Excused from this meeting today are Louis Salaveria, Budget and Finance Chair, and Don Chang, the Director of the Department of Land and Natural Resources. My name is Colin Kippen, and the staff providing administrative support are Amber Kalua, Lehua Itukazu, Zuri Aki, Everett Ota, and Kevin Shock. They are all participating, with the exception of Amber, remotely. May I begin?
Mhm.
The first item on our agenda is further discussions and comments regarding the State Land Information Management System, SLIMS, the Public Land Trust Information System, PLTIS. Department of Land and Natural Resources, DLNR, reports to the legislature pursuant to Act 178 Session Laws of Hawaii 2006, and the report to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs on the accuracy and completeness of a report by the Department of Land and Natural Resources to the Hawaii State Legislature on public land trust receipts for fiscal year ended June 30, 2016 by NNK CPAs. Is there discussion by the members about item number 2?
So there was a question that came up to Ian
Yes.
regarding samples for
Yes.
the dispositions for submerged lands, and so he distributed
Yes.
through Amber samples.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna just give them to you folks now.
Okay. And maybe
Thank you,
Amber,
Amber,
you could
for
you could distribute the letter, because I see that other people don't have.
Before we
Copy.
begin, I've just been informed by Amber that there is someone who may want to present testimony, and rather than have them wait,
Okay.
I would ask that they be allowed. Amber, can you assist with that?
The person with a phone number ending in 119, can you unmute yourself? Are you testifying on this action item? Or this,
Hello. We have an individual on the phone with the last 3 digits 119. Are you desiring? Do you want to present testimony?
You need to unmute.
You're on mute at present. Amber, is there anyone on the in-person testimony screen that I see?
that's the only information.
That's the only information we have.
That person.
In that case,
They unmuted.
hello.
Yeah, sorry. I don't have anything to testify. It's just that I can't get online at .org. So that's the only reason why I called in.
Oh, Ian.
Oh, okay. He's listening to us.
All right.
Yeah, so that's just for your information. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. All right. In that case, Amber, is that something that we could
Yeah, you can move forward.
move forward? All right. returning to your comments, Ryan. Go ahead,
No, no,
please.
That was it. I distributed the sample from Ian. I'm not sure if it's gonna be any discussion resulting from it. I think the members have to take some time to digest the information. that's
These are
provided.
only
Yeah.
submerged lands?
Yes, there's a sample. I think it's for the, so it includes a copy of the disposition, the grant of non-exclusive easement, the amendment to that disposition. And then as well as the submittal to the Board of Land and Natural Resources along with the appraisal report for this
Yes.
submarine com cable.
Yeah, so I had, yeah, been sort of pursuing these issues a little bit here and a little bit there, but I think we need to digest what we got and we'll put it
Yeah.
on the next agenda to talk in more detail about how the submerged lands are handled,
Yeah,
handled.
I think this is representative
Yeah,
of what is typically done in
right.
this
So
course.
we just wanted to get started and not make Ian
So what-
spend the next month every day working on my.
So these are
project.
samples is
Yes.
what we're looking at, but there are others.
Yes,
Okay. The submerged lands that you're looking at are the submerged lands defined by what we're saying in the state. So they would end at the state's boundary. Or did it go up to include the Northwest Hawaiian Island submerged lands?
I am not
Palmyra.
sure about that.
Okay, let's check on that.
That's with Vilanar's shop. I'm not-
Okay. Because the World Heritage, World Heritage in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, and also because of our fisheries extend beyond the 200 miles.
Maybe Ian has an answer.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, just
There's
to
Ian.
comment first
Hi,
before Ian says anything is, if you look at my letter
Mhm.
that I drafted on page 5, it. Do we have more copies of the letter?
no, so I
isn't
didn't
that
bring my
one?
tool.
No, this is a different letter. This
Oh.
is Russell Suzuki's letter. Amber?
I can pull it up.
Maybe do I have it? When did you
What-
give it to
Let me
me?
see it. I'll go get.
Yeah,
Mine's
just-
probably in the office. Kaheli will probably. can bring them
Just,
all.
okay, well anyways, then I quote from the Hawaii State Constitution, the boundaries of the state of Hawaii. And so I would assume that it includes the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, but it does not specifically excludes Palmyra.
It does or it doesn't?
It does exclude Palmyra. So
Okay.
just FYI. But I think we should take up the submerged lands as a topic in and of itself.
You know that the state has already given out harvesting leases in the state of Hawaii. I think it's northwest of South Point.
Okay.
They're going to harvest manganese nodule. My understanding is it is within the state boundary. Initially, the report said that the manganese minerals were rocks on top of the surface, and they were going over and vacuuming them up. The recent reports say that they have to dig down an additional 3 to 6 feet. Manganese nodule is at the top to vacuum, but the other minerals are 3 and 6 feet below. And that I'm concerned about because that looks like harvesting within our waters, but they're saying it's for science research.
Mhm.
The thing is that I couldn't find anything beyond that. But it's also in the area where the fisheries come. Because our fisheries, a lot of them like ahi and that, come out of the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. And they're coming into Hawaii waters. But that's why I wanted to look and see, where the catch is going. Because we're losing some resources there. Anyway, we can look at it as it comes, but I didn't know what to do about it.
Well, maybe we could ask Ian right now. Ian, I just wanted to be sure that I acknowledged the wonderful help that you already provided and how much you and and everybody else at DLNR just jumped right on it and responded right away. So I really appreciate it. I guess what Trustee Trask is asking is, are there leases or easements that have been given out by DLNR for harvesting of minerals on the seabed floor or within the seabed? If you know, if you don't, you need to look for the information.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't think we at Land Division have any, but I'll have to double check.
Okay.
Can't hear 'em.
Yeah,
Can we
He
turn
said
the
he-
volume up?
He
Is that
said
possible?
he doesn't know of any, but he'll go look.
I think one question that came up was, the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. I believe that's under a separate management authority, so I wouldn't necessarily have knowledge of what they're doing out there either. So that would be a separate entity to inquire about.
So is that within DLNR as well, or is that a different
I
agency?
we may have to check with aquatics because my recollection was the sanctuary was co-managed.
It
at
is
one point.
co-managed.
It is.
Yeah, so I think that would be a question for our Aquatic Resources Division.
What about don't you have a Department Coastal Zone Management?
We have OCCL, which is the regulator of the use
Yeah.
of coastal land, so they issue permits and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, we don't. CZM is actually with I believe it's OPSD, the
I
CZM
see.
program. But we just have OCCL. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, they don't really do leases. They do just more regulatory permits.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll have to check though on I'm sorry, what was leases for coral?
For minerals on the seabed
minerals? Okay.
or in the seabed.
Leases or
Sure.
licenses.
Yeah, at
Okay.
least, yeah,
And that's for mining, yeah.
basically.
No, it is not only for mining. That's the problem. The problem is that they're saying it's for research. But what they are in fact engaging in is mining.
Okay, so it's
That's
basically
why I'm
taking-
concerned there's a video on this thing, Ian. There's a video on it. I saw it. And they were talking about research off the shoreline of the big island. It's not close in, it's out. But it's, I think, within our state waters.
Okay.
And they're covering it as a research project, but what they're actually doing is harvesting the minerals. And that's what the research is about. And I'm looking at it for two reasons. One is to find out if it is a resource in this trust. And the other is because if it is a resource, we need to get on it in terms of our own oversight, yeah? What you're saying about the oceans, there is a co-management agreement in the Heritage Center that specifically names the state of Hawaii, and the agent representing the state is OHA. OHA has direct jurisdiction there. The person I think maybe we should consult with is Kealoha. But you know what I'm saying? What you're kind of looking at is saying, well, it's really not under our purview, but it is.
Sorry,
you
I
know-
just want to get, it might not be under, what I'm trying to say is it might not be under, I work for Land Division, it might not be under our division purview, but it may be elsewhere in DLNR, so I can ask.
Find out.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
talk with the
Okay.
No,
chair. and
I don't
find
have
out
a
about that,
problem
yeah.
with your finding, with your finding out about it. I don't have a problem with going to DLNR. What I'm saying is that OHA has an oversight position in the international law relating to the World Heritage Center. We have a staffer for ocean policy that is in my office in Hilo. You know, so I mean, this is one staffer I think we should be talking with, but it's, you know what I'm saying? We actually have ocean policy person in this office. It's not something that should just be left to DLNR. That's why we're doing it with DLNR. We're doing our own work, they're doing theirs, and we're going to compare it. So we need to get some input on this thing. I'm not saying it's your job, but we might need to bring in Kealoha to look at the ocean policy stuff, or at least Zoom her in because she's on Big Island. Let's just go look, see what we can find.
Can I just clarify something? This is Colin. So someone's going to be checking on whether or not their licenses, permit requests, or leases for submerged lands. Is that right, Ian?
Yeah,
Well,
I'll
Is it-
check.
In the Northwestern.
In Northwest Hawaiian Islands?
I can follow up with the Division of Aquatic Resources and ask.
Thank you.
You know what, when we look for the leases, it might be leases for, it might be permission for research. It could be for fishing as well.
Mhm. So we want to know if some kind of license has been given for educational purposes
Yeah,
Or
license or
research.
permitting.
or
Yeah.
permitting. So any kind of right, whether it's a vested property right or not, but any kind of right to
Mhm.
do that activity. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, is there any further conversation about item 2 on our agenda? Presently?
Yeah, I mean, is this where we're gonna talk about Sherry's letter or is?
No,
So
that's
that's
the
Okay.
next item, item 3.
Okay, the records that we had looked at when we were discussing forming the committee were records that, you know, the process I had in my notes was that periodically every few years, we're trying to work with the LNR. We would come up with these figures where OHA would be looking for millions and millions, the state would be less, and the legislature would adjust it to what they wanted. My understanding was that we have been doing this every few years. But this number 1 is only going back to 2016. Does that mean that we haven't brought the receipts and the data current to 2023?
Okay, that is the NNK report that OHA commissioned. It's a
Yes.
financial review.
Yes,
Okay, and it was for receipts and income and proceeds in 2016.
yeah.
All right. And the report was finalized in 2018. Every year DLNR makes a report based on the information that it receives to the Hawaii State Legislature. Okay, so to that extent, the numbers are being updated by DLNR based on a reporting that it's getting from the agencies. But OHA has not commissioned another financial review.
Based on the data received from the agency being DLNR.
No,
The
all-
agent,
All the agencies.
all the agencies report to DLNR.
Mhm.
Okay, that's the law. They're supposed to do that.
That is the big, what was that first
Act
document we
178.
had? Yeah,
report,
yeah.
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 So there is a DLNR report that goes every year to the
Okay.
legislature. So the last one that was published was 2022.
I
Right.
think
But
that,
for 20, excuse me,
I think the problem with that report is that everybody is on their honor.
yes. So that's why we're moving on. That's why we wanted to do the letter, exactly that. So we're gonna we're gonna start again, so every. So as soon as we get to the next agenda item.
I mean,
I can
we
explain
probably
what I
should have
did.
this discussion with Don, but you know, the reason why we went to NNK was because we knew and suspected every indication was that we were being shorted by tens of millions, if not more. NNK report comes out and verifies that. No update since then. As you said, we're taking them on their word.
Well,
I don't-
we're not taking them on their word.
No.
DLNR is taking them on their word. We haven't
Right.
approved or disapproved the DLNR report.
No, and why are we waiting for it, given our past history? I mean, I'm
Okay.
saying it's
Why don't we-
now 2020.
Yeah,
You know, when I say we're in 2024, we know if anything, the
yeah,
old one of 2026, 2016,
yeah.
not accurate.
Well,
So
and
is
in-
it time for us to look at another NNK report?
We did ask NNK,
Right,
okay, but they don't want to do one because it's a
Conflict.
conflict of interest for them to do one. We might
Right.
want to consider somebody else. Before NNK, we had somebody else.
There
Who
was
was it?
another shop that. did
Yeah,
the
another shop
previous
before.
What's the
audit.
conflict?
I
They
think-
work for the state.
Yeah, I think NNK has a contract with the state on
Yeah, so-
financial auditing.
What,
So-
do they not have a contract with us?
They did have one, but they finished their work and published their report in
Right, and we
2018.
didn't.
I think they're currently under contract with the state.
Yeah.
Okay, so existing contract. You know, I think we need some help in it.
Yeah,
And I think we need to look at bringing somebody on to update it. This date is 2016. I mean,
yeah.
you know, what do you say? I mean, I need some more accurate data and some more updated data, and I sure we know
Okay.
we're here because we cannot trust the LNR.
Okay, why don't we move on to my letter? My draft
Okay,
letter.
good.
Yeah, do you have a copy, trustee Trask?
Which one is?
I
it?
have
This
it. I
is the
just-
one, no date.
Okay.
Here, I just passed it
Or
out.
did it have a date?
No,
Before we
so what are
move
we
on-
gonna do
Before we
on
move
this?
on.
That's
Before we
right.
move on to
Let's-
this,
let's
what are
call
we
it.
gonna do?
This letter here with a state seal on top, this was a letter written by Russell Suzuki, which Ryan very kindly provided us all with a copy of. But we're not going to talk about Russell's letter. That's just background, okay? Just talk about this.
All right,
Okay.
so let us just, we are concluding conversation and discussion of item 2. We're now moving on to item 3,
No,
which is to
I'm not-
review.
I'm asking, are
We're
we gonna
still,
hire
all right, we're
somebody?
still on 2 then.
Yeah, are we gonna hire somebody to update this work for us and in KCPA?
Well, why don't we look at my letter? And then we can, well, I mean, we could consider it. I think we have to find out who
Okay,
might be able to
I
do
don't mind
it and how
skipping over
much.
until after we look at you, but it's, I don't see that it changes
think-
anything. Are we
All
gonna
right.
trust their
Ultimately, that's a
data? Or are
whole
we gonna
question.
check it?
Right, that's a question for the board.
It is,
Yeah.
this is a question for the board, an internal question
is.
for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
Right.
It
It's not a
is.
subject that I
Well, the
think
only
should be
thing
part of
would-
this conversation.
Well,
right
the
now.
only thing would be if the state, if we would be willing to waive the conflict, but I don't know. We did contact NNK and it seemed like they didn't want to do it because,
No, if
Be-
NNK cannot do it, I
All right.
understand it. The question is, are we going to retain someone with the expertise to do the work that we have not done in the office because we've decided for years to take their word on it? The reason why NNK was brought in was to verify representations of the state, and there were millions of dollars off. So before we leave 2, I don't mind addressing it after we look at the letter. The letter is asking state for their data. I understand that. But when we all already had a discussion saying that historically we relied on them and it was not accurate, and the first report we had was more than 60 million in error. So I don't want to just leave that and move on to number 2, because I don't think we can get NNK. They are in a conflict, but we need somebody to assist us.
Let's come back to that. then.
Okay.
All right, so we're temporarily leaving 2, we're moving to 3, which is to review its action item PLT 23-01. Review, discussion and comments to draft letter to state agencies regarding the reporting made and supporting documentation available to finalize 1, an accurate and complete inventory of ceded lands and public land trust lands, including submerged lands, and 2, an accurate and complete accounting of the income and proceeds from the ceded lands and the public land trust lands, including submerged lands under their jurisdiction. So we can now discuss that. I believe that there is a, Sherry, I believe that you have a letter, a draft letter.
okay, so I prepared a draft letter. We had talked about doing this 2 meetings ago already. And so I did prepare a draft. So first so this would be to go to all
Departments.
agencies,
Yeah.
right?
State
State
agencies,
agencies,
yeah.
all state agencies. Oh, hey, it's up on the screen.
There it is.
I gotta give a big thank you to Amber too. She helped me finish this off. and I really appreciate it.
Amber's good at it.
Oh,
Yes.
she's so good. Yeah, okay. All right, so, okay, so this would be to go to all the state agencies. All right, so first introduction, so telling them what our job is. And where we're supposed to, by law, account for all the ceded lands in the public land trust inventory, account for all the income and proceeds from the public land trust, and subsequently determine the 20%. So to explain to everybody what it is that we're statutorily, what our statutory duty and responsibility are. Start with that.
Mhm.
Okay, so to clarify what we're asking for, I have the next paragraph. Then the background is the pro rata share, explaining where that comes from, the constitutional amendments in 1978, and then also explaining where the duty to account for all the state agencies comes from, which is an Act 273, which was in 1980, which set the 40%, 20% for the pro rata share. Okay, so then accounting, the first thing is the accounting. The second thing that I talk about is the inventory. So I say in Act 178, what Section 5 requires. Okay, so it goes over everything that the state agency is required to do by law. Okay, so we're just following up on state law for now. Not that we agree or disagree with the state law. We're just saying, what is state law? And why do you have to answer this letter that we're sending you? And then with regard to that, after I list all the things in Section 5 of Act 178 that's required from each state agency, which is 6 things, then there's a series of questions on page 3. Any audits that they have performed within their state agency to determine if they're doing what they're reporting what they should be reporting, and if there are any inaccuracies. Then I asked them if there's any income and proceeds or receipts that were omitted that they know about anyways. Okay, that to deal in without an audit that anybody in the agency has knowledge of. And if so, provide the source and amount of each omitted amount. Then with regard to our N&K report in 2016, which identified gaps, what steps they've taken to correct those gaps or to correct any inaccuracies based on what N&K did find. Okay, then on the inventory, I describe Act 54, which was passed in 2011, which authorized funds and required the creation of the Public Land Trust inventory system. I didn't discuss earlier information systems or inventories that were done. There was actually, the SLIMs that we talked about before, and then right after statehood, there was an inventory that was done right after statehood, and
When
that
was that
is
done?
I think it was done in
1960?
1961. And I have a wonderful law student helping me for my work on this committee, and she is just a dynamo and went to Hamilton and the archives, and she found the earlier inventory.
I have looked all over the place for that thing. Was it done by the state? Was it done by
It looks like it was done by
feds
the
and state
state.
together?
She couldn't take it out, right? Because it was
Right.
like, okay, but she took a couple of pictures of the first few pages and I'll send them to you.
Yes.
But it's just like the number. I mean, it's not,
No, it's
it's
very
very-
general.
it's very hard to understand because like SLIMs, and the PLTIS, you can look at it and it says, okay, Kihei Lagoon, or gives you the TMK number, but this is just a list. It's just a listing. So it's hard to figure out what it is. So I thought, well, let's start with, because I know that for SLIMs, they must, I am assuming that they use that. And then I know that for PLTIS, they use SLIMs, but I think it's clear that PLTIS is the best listing available today. Okay, so For the inventory, I described what was required by law by Act 54.
Mhm.
The purpose was to facilitate the establishment of a comprehensive information system to inventory and maintain information about the lands of the PLT. Okay, and then, and it also includes not just Section 5F of the Admissions Act, but it also makes reference to Article 12, Section 4, which sets up OHA's pro rata share. Then Act 54, Section 1, I try to make the point for us that the PLTIS is to be, quote, a complete and accurate inventory of all lands. Okay. The information system shall consist of a complete and accurate inventory of all lands of the PLT to which state agencies hold title or over which they maintain management control. Okay. It includes not just state, but county agencies.
Yep.
And they're supposed to assist DLNR in facilitating the establishment of this PLTIS. And they shall comply with any and all requests the Department of Land and Natural Resources may make for any information and services pertinent to the completion of the information request. Then Section 2C requires DLNR to consult with state and county agencies to develop this comprehensive and complete accurate inventory. Then it lists the things that the department as a minimum shall determine would be useful. Okay, so there's a list of all the things, 13 of them that is supposed to be included. Okay, then,
Which all pertain to dry land.
right,
None of them
well,
pertain.
not necessarily, I would disagree with you on that.
Well, they're supposed to be including natural resources, but there's never been anything
Okay,
on
well, not the natural
manganese
resources. Okay,
nodules.
but you said dry land, so I was thinking submerged lands in
No,
response
that's
to
what
your
I'm
thing.
thinking, because here, the parcel's location by meets and bounds, you will not find that in the submerged lands. That's
they-
only in the county record for dry land.
Yeah, but that could, it's not to say that it couldn't be done for submerged lands.
That
meets
is
and bounds,
correct. That
right.
is correct.
So I would say that the law required both. okay,
Yes, so
all
in
right.
this section,
Submerged
we need
lands,
to
I
add
don't
submerged
think-
lands.
I think that
Yeah.
to the extent there's resources involved, that's not required for this, for the PLTIS. But resources
Why
would
wouldn't
be,
it be?
would be involved for the accounting.
If we already have a rubric in place for geothermal energy on land, mineral on land, and what they tried to do was give us a fraction of a fraction in terms of a royalty, but it's there.
Yeah,
Why would we not have something similar for minerals on submerged lands?
they are supposed, the minerals and resources are supposed to be reported for the accounting. I'm just,
No, I agree.
yeah,
That's why I'm saying as we go through the document, I'm trying to
Yeah.
put down the things that we
All right.
haven't, we've got to add.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so please describe the information from the list of 13 above that were included
Right.
in the agency and information and data provided to DLNR to
Mhm.
make the PLTIS. Any steps that they've taken to verify the data that they provided and determine if there are any inaccuracies? Have they done any reviews of their own
Mhm.
work that they provided?
Great.
Any current inaccuracies discovered in the agency they already provided, tell us how you're going to correct that and copies of any documents related to the correction. What are the principles or guidelines that they utilized when they provided the information to DLNR? Okay, and so one of those things on page 5, it was the issue that of the 50%, did they use that rule? The last thing on page 4, did they use that rule where if it's 50% plus, they counted as seeded lands? If it's less than 50%, 49.9%, they counted as non-seeded. So did they use that rule? I noticed that the reason I really appreciated Ryan giving us the letter from Russell Suzuki is that practice is confirmed in his letter.
Right.
So that is that is a practice that is going on. So we want to know who's doing that and how it accounts for. In the governor's EO 0606, she states that to the extent that that's going on, where there's a mixed parcel of seeded and non-seeded, she says that the decision should be made to err on the side of OHA. But I don't know what that means. It doesn't say. Is that decision based on the number of acres per se, or is that decision based on which part of the parcel is more valuable or something like that? But so
That's
this is,
That's from Governor's EO 0606.
yeah. Okay, so then, okay, yeah, I'll also ask about conservation district lands or preservation zone lands, because I don't know if for some reason that was put down the list of things to account for. Didn't have enough time, so we'll just do the ones that make money or something. So I mean, we can ask and see what they say.
We know though, based on Mama Care, that this is not being done.
Okay, so then also confirm that all PL 88-233 lands that were transferred since August 21st, 1959 statehood from the federal government to the state and to this agency that we're writing to reported to DLNR, and it's included. Then I have a section on the submerged lands. Okay, and I quote from the Hawaii State Constitution on what the state's claim is for the for submerged lands. What do we claim? So we claim everything included in the territory of Hawaii except the atoll known as Palmyra Island. And it does not include Midway, Johnston, Sand Island, or Kingman Reef. Okay, so I assume based on that it includes the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, because certain islands are excluded, so I assume those are included. Okay, then
that's a very good point. What you're saying is that when they make specific exclusion, we take everything else that's not specifically named.
Well, it says included in the territory of Hawaii, but I assume that the United States of America claimed as much as they possibly could. So
No,
I have to do more
yeah.
research on exactly.
You know what? I want to work with you on this because I looked at this.
Yeah,
This came up from the Pacific region when when I was at the United Nations, because America had come in for fisheries and that.
yeah,
And what the US said was that these were the only things excluded, and that America could have excluded all the waters,
yeah,
but they did not. They chose only to name the islands, and it was because America had facilities on some of them and needed them, But if we go back to the territory of Hawaii, at point in time, all the Northwest Hawaiian Islands is there. I was looking at this because I was researching the fisheries, because when they took those islands, they took the reefs around them, but the migratory fish come through, but it's from the territorial time, okay? So,
well, you raised kind
looking-
of an
okay.
interesting point, which is that, yeah, the reason Midway and Johnston were excluded because the United States of America had an Air Force base Midway and was storing chemical weapons
Yeah.
on Johnston.
yeah,
So I don't know, maybe we should ask for those. Write a letter to the DOI. Okay, so okay, then the last one is this communication is without waiver of any and all rights, remedies, claims, or defenses of any party, I should say, to this letter. Okay, so just so that we can send it out, so the state's not worried by asking these questions that it's admitting to anything, and OHA's not worried by asking these questions that we're conceding or admitting to anything. Okay, next page. Okay, this is the up-to-date, this is all the information that Ian provided to me. This is the list of agencies who are providing information to DLNR.
Mhm.
Okay, so This will help us know who to write to. And list number 2. Okay, next page, number 2 is the list of agencies that have reported parcels and or encumbrances, okay, and are in the PLTIS, okay? So the first one is the list asked. The second one is the list which provided information that got included. And the third list is the original contact that was made in 2011 when the
okay.
statute was passed, okay?
Mhm.
So, and then at the end of that list, number 3 is the total of the agencies reported that they don't own nor have any management of any lands within the state, which includes the Office of the Attorney General. You think that's still true, Ryan?
I can't speak for that. I don't know.
Okay. All right, so that's, so then what we gotta do is, I think we should wait for Dawn input on this, but I think we defer to the chair. What do you think?
What did Dawn see this?
Well, I did upload it to the folder so everybody would have a chance to spend several hours before the meeting and work on it, but
I think we should ask Dawn to review it and get back to us so that we can move forward.
Yeah.
In between our meetings.
yes, maybe what we could do is ask her to review it and get back to me. And maybe everybody, would that be okay? Everett, if everybody got back to me with any changes that they have, and I'll use that information to prepare a new letter for the next meeting.
Yeah, I assume that we would all have
Yeah,
red
one
lines
by-
of our own, so we can all drop them into the SharePoint and then you can.
Well, I'm
it'll
just
be
worried about the
combined.
sunshine.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how.
So that's why I'm thinking you make your changes and send me a
Separately.
track
got it. Yeah,
change.
that'd be-
Okay, I'll
that'd be
send
fine.
everybody a PDF. You make your changes
Yeah.
and send it to me directly, one at a time, so that you aren't talking to each other.
Yeah.
So only 2 people are talking,
Okay,
okay?
okay. I mean, the few notes I've made wherever we say ceded lands, I want to have included there that there's a reference including the submerged ceded lands. Maybe in the first few paragraphs, but I don't want the submerged lands
Okay,
to slip through.
well, I tried to have a whole section on submerged lands.
Yes, I
okay?
see them.
And
the-
and to the extent that I cited the statute, I just quoted the direct language in the statute.
Perfect.
And I think that maybe what we could do in the beginning is give it the definition of ceded lands, which it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's put submerged lands.
Okay,
Seeded, PLT, and submerged lands.
Yeah,
okay,
Very specific.
okay.
the accounting, we're looking for only ceded lands, not submerged ceded lands. I'm not sure how to.
Well,
You know
it
what I'm
says
saying?
lands described in 5F of the Admissions Act, so.
Right, but the questions we're asking to guide them are only
Okay.
relate to dry lands.
Well,
I mean, there's not gonna be any TMK in the ocean and things like that, but I'm not sure. Maybe we can, because you are looking at it under the submerged land section. You know, maybe we could state for lands that are.
well,
So I
why
have to
don't we,
think
why
about
don't we
that.
make 2 definitions in the beginning? One is ceded lands can also refer to PLT and the submerged lands, and that PLT lands can also refer to the ceded lands and submerged lands. Is that okay?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's
All
a
right.
good way.
Is that
And
okay?
the ceded lands definition would be from, I'm assuming, HRS 10
1959.
Yeah, is it 1959 or is it ceded lands defined by those lands that were ceded to the
Yeah,
territory of like
I will,
1898?
I will double check. Okay,
There's a statutory definition in chapter
right.
10
okay,
that I believe.
There is.
defines ceded
And
lands.
the thing is that initially, that was not the definition initially they were looking at much broader, but as time went on, they began to see that they needed to.
I'll
Yeah,
look for
yeah.
definitions. Okay,
Okay, good.
statutory definitions or admission act definitions. Okay, so whatever those are, we'll use those. I'm not saying they're right or they're wrong. All right, I'm just saying we'll use whatever this statute says, so we can keep moving forward. But that's why I put that caveat at the end that, you know, nobody's submitting to anything by submitting this letter. We're just collecting information and
Mhm.
data.
I think that's why they refer to 5F
Yeah.
generally, right? As,
Right.
because it captures the most
Right,
type of land base or
right.
submerged land base possible.
And
Rather than going through
yeah,
a long ceded lands definition.
okay, all right. I'll check on it.
So
I'll
if-
consult
if,
with you.
um,
Maybe you want to see if there's
If
anything else at the
NN
AG's
if
office.
NNK
Yeah.
is conflicted, that doesn't mean we cannot hire another company.
No, that's
like-
exactly what I'm
Like Plant
thinking.
Moran,
Yes,
like
that's exactly
CLA.
what I'm thinking.
Okay.
I was thinking about Plant
Okay.
Moran only because they have done the forensic audit for us, so they're very familiar with our structure and maybe not so much our land records, but other. But I don't, you know, I'm not gonna, I cannot be satisfied with this because, you know, colleagues, it's all us at this table. And we need somebody that had the background, and that's why I think it was done at the outset. And these guys knew it and they went and retained them, but we need the same assistance. But how much? How much? You have any idea?
Colin, maybe you can research how much in 2016 and in NNK costs OHA.
If, is Everett on the line? Everett might know the answer right now. Everett, do you know how much we paid N&K to do the work?
Oh, I'd have to look that up.
Okay,
It's been a while.
Yeah, boy, I wonder how much it would be, but I think it's good for us because I don't think a few people at this table can do it.
It's
We're-
big work.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
totally understaffed.
There's
We
a
don't really
list.
have the skills. But I think it's this
would
kind of
say
thing,
it's
it's worth it,
basically
us paying
achievable.
money to get the best in to help us. I mean, it's a good expenditure.
Yeah.
For our,
But-
of our trust costs for this. I don't know how
Okay.
long it would take them. You were
well, I think
around.
it took them a couple of years. And we had a meeting with Charlene Ina and who was head of B&F at the time.
2016.
Yeah, the same guy was head for 20
The-
years.
The length of audits are dependent on how long I used to audit. the
Yeah.
state, But the
I
length of audits are,
remember.
they depend on how fast you can get the information.
Right, so I
Otherwise-
think we should keep going because if to hire an auditor, we're gonna have to do procurement. Anyway, so it's gonna take a while. I have to go to the board and get approval, blah, blah, blah. So we may
Let's
as well
move
get
it.
the letters out and get going.
No, I totally agree. Let's get the letters out, but
Okay.
let's also get the item on the board.
Yeah, but
We
I guess the
can-
question is, I mean, is OHA gonna pay? And we don't have the finance, we don't have B&F here, maybe.
I was like, I don't have the money guy here. It's
Yeah,
saying-
so I think we need to put this on the next agenda. What do you think, Chair?
Yes, I
Okay.
No,
agree.
yeah, I think we need to
Okay,
hire
Because
them.
this is mandated by the legislature.
Right,
Yeah,
It doesn't say that OHA needs to pay. all
No.
by themselves. So
right. And I think, well,
usually our working group has some kind of money,
but we didn't get any
financing.
money,
No,
did we?
not that I
I
know.
believe
of.
there was a bill last
Session.
session that included funding for this working
Yeah.
group. I don't
Well,
know what
it's-
happened to it.
The time is right for our work and we can show when we do our report, our initial report, we can show the
The
letter we send out
Appropriation request.
and ask for money and we'll know how much we need because we'll have researched
Yeah.
the cost. How's that sound?
it
Yeah.
sounds good,
Okay.
but let's have another discussion. You know, I'll tell you, colleagues, it's our obligation to do it. It should have been done years ago and it should have been done in a regular format where we were going to update every 4 or 5 years. It's never been done. And either way you look at it, we have to do it. I don't mind going, but I'm not up for losing 1 or 2 years trying to fight over a few $1,000,000. We have the money. What we don't have is an accurate record of our people's assets. I
Well, maybe
mean, I want to
B&F
put it
can
on
find
the,
money.
You know what
do
I'm saying?
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to talk to our other two
Members. right.
members to find out.
Yeah, but I'd like to get the thing before the board because we need to inform them that we're gonna need these expertise and we're gonna need to maybe do some preliminary work, which I'm happy to help if you need help, Colin. But I'd like to touch bases with NNK. I know they have a conflict, but what I want to ask them is you did the first one for me years ago. If you were gonna do it today, what would you charge me? I need a ballpark figure, and they may have some recommendations as to folks we could go and see. You know, I'm sure it's gonna be way more, but I mean, we gotta do it. I don't view this as going to the board for permission. It's going to the board for a budget because we have to get some work done. And we can't just cover it, you know, with 40 stamps going out on letters to other agencies. We need a budget. I wonder what we paid NNK years ago.
Well, and then we should consult with the rest of our working group.
Yeah.
to
And
see-
let's put it on the agenda too for the rest of our board too,
Yeah,
because Don's not even here. I don't know if Don will say, sure, I'll give you the money out of my budget. I don't want to be stuck with that, you guys. We pay half and the LNR pay half and legislature doesn't give us money. Okay. Really looks good. Sherry, really good.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
Mahalo.
Yeah.
Mahalo.
What else do we have on the agenda today, Carl?
You have a discussion regarding, this is item number 4, discussion regarding request to the counties and federal government for information relating to the inventory and identification of ceded lands and public land trust lands, including submerged lands under their jurisdiction and counting of the income and proceeds derived therefrom. Similar
Well, this letter
Similar
would be
question to the
applicable
feds.
that, Right?
So,
Oh,
Sherry, can I
yes.
ask one before we move on?
Yes.
Can you send me a soft copy?
You
'Cause
mean
it's
a
just so
Word?
hard. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
harder
yeah.
to
Yes, I will.
mark up on.
Yes. No, I'm gonna send you everybody a Word
thank
document
you,
so
thank
you can do track changes.
Oh.
Okay, because otherwise I can't read it. I can barely read it as it is.
Yeah,
Never
yeah.
mind
No,
if
thank
you
you.
mark it up. Okay, so I
So-
will send you that.
So what number 4 is a replication of the same set of information
Yeah.
that we're requesting in number 3, except
Right.
now we're asking for it from the counties and the federal government.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
you'll see in the list of agencies that were asked, the counties were asked. And I think the chair is right that we could use the same letter. Okay,
I
don't
think there has to be a couple changes.
All right,
on
for
the-
the counties.
On the accounting side, because
right.
they're not required
Okay,
under Act 178 to do any accounting.
right.
I
So
don't
I
think they
will,
would have that information anyway.
okay.
Um,
So I think that's a
How
good, very
would we
good
get
point.
it from them if they don't want to give it to us?
I'm not sure.
Right, I don't think that they're
Come on,
gonna,
Attorney?
What do you mean? How do we get it from it? Why are we doing this?
we do what we want, the
Well, no.
inventory.
Exactly.
That's
And
why.
when we, and
So-
after all these years, we will go into federal court for it. I mean, I'm not over here to beg on bended knee. And I've said 100 times that we need to seek the assistance of the federal district court.
Okay, well, I think that we'll just ask them for the 2. I think the letter does have to be revised. I think Ryan's made a very good point. We might as well go ask, right? Let's
Yeah.
go ask them and see.
No, you can make the ask. I think it's just
Right.
the citations to Act 178 because
Yeah,
it kind of presupposes that the
Yes.
agency already has this accounting pursuant to Act 178. But when
Right,
you go
right.
to the county side, they wouldn't have any of that because they don't have Act 178.
right. So I think you're absolutely right. So I think that's a very good point. And we need a new letter for them. And then for the feds. So I think, when you mark this letter up,
I'll point out that.
yeah, point out whatever you think is appropriate. And then we could draft a letter to the feds too, but I think that's a bigger revising project because we can't use the same list. We've already got the list
Yep.
for the state and county. We can reuse what's already been done.
So the inventory side regarding Act 54,
Yeah,
that account can be reapplied to the counties because they were
right,
providing information to the PLTIS anyway.
right. But I think it's slightly different. I think I'll have to look more carefully at Act
Yep.
54.
You know what?
Okay.
When you go over that,
So
Sherry,
have
let
we
me
been
know.
receiving Money from the county?
No. We
Oh.
don't receive any money from the
No,
counties.
I don't believe that's under Article 12, Section 4. So you have to look at the definitions established under 5F on the Admissions Act and versus the definition or the public land trust that's defined under Article 12, Section 4 of the Constitution. And I think that they're distinguishable, right? Because 5F includes all lands under 5B as well as lands returned under 5E. And 5B also includes Section 203 of the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act lands.
Right.
Whereas Article 12, Section 4 excludes those lands and only points out to Section 5B of the Admissions Act. So it completely excludes returned lands. I mean, that's the argument, right?
You know what? I'm gonna ask.
I think
you-
it
I'm gonna
refers
ask
to
you to put that in
5F, not
writing.
5B.
I would,
I have to
I'm
look.
asking
I
you
have
to-
guys for
All right.
something in writing on this. That is a major point.
Yeah, but I
have to
don't,
look.
we don't agree. So.
No,
let's
I'm
start with that.
saying,
No, we disagree on that point.
So let's
No,
let's
you
find out
guys,
what,
I mean, what we're trying to do is write a report. We know we're gonna have disagreement. As we go through, I
yeah,
don't want to sidestep the disagreement. I want to memorialize it.
okay,
So when we send the report to the legislature,
yeah,
and that's why I had made a call to Don,
yeah,
that we would list things that we did not agree on.
That's fair.
We would list things that we have not included. You know, if not, I'm not doing my
Yeah.
job to look at it. And that's why
Yeah.
I'm saying right now, while you're having the
yeah,
discussion, I would like a note from you, Sherry, and I would like your contrary note as well.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You know what
I
I'm
think that'd
saying? So I can look at it, because when we send that report out,
yeah,
we have to at least note it.
yeah,
You know, this is to the legislature. We don't want to look sloppy. We have to note it to them. But also, I'm looking at going to court on it.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't need a vote of the board for that. I can proceed on my own.
okay,
I think if they see the detail, they'll understand what we're doing, you know? I don't know.
I don't know.
I think we know more at this table than a lot of legislators.
Technically,
Well,
Hawaiian
why don't-
homelands are 5B lands.
okay.
But I don't think we would, at this table, agree that Hawaiian homelands are what we're after here, or at
No,
least-
we haven't
no.
included
Right.
DHHL,
So
but I mean,
that's just one
yeah,
example.
well, let's see what the list said. Okay. Department of Hawaiian Homelands is on the list, but that's,
They would
That's-
report zero typically.
right,
Well, I don't know. That's a question that I've been trying to. find.
but that list
You were
is,
attorney down there. Huh?
no, but that list
Not
is,
anymore though.
I know.
that list is for the inventory, not
Yeah.
for the accounting,
Yeah.
okay? The list for DHHL,
Yeah.
with DHHL on it, it doesn't have anything to do with
Do
accounting.
we need to
So-
get it
But they
clarified?
reports, they don't report, I don't even know if they report in that.
I asked and I'm waiting on an answer from their land manager.
Yeah, okay, because what I was talking to him about earlier was I know they're doing, with the feds, they're doing some inventory.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we're trying to find out what exactly it is that they're doing.
I want to note for the record, I think this is relevant to
Yeah,
our agenda. There were state lands that were conveyed over to DHHL after, the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act. So I'm not sure if we're going to include that in our inventory or exclude that. And as far as the letter goes, I think the letter should go out to DHHL anyway.
Yeah.
To state agencies, just to
Yeah.
clarify that, because they would put it on that agency too.
Could that have been an exchange?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
okay,
don't.
here's
I would
the
ex-
list
I
of
would
reports
think
for Act
that-
178.
Any lands coming in from the state gotta be in payment for lands the state took from Hawaiian Homes.
You know
Yeah.
what, Hulu, there was something that happened
That's how
along
they
those
work.
lines. No,
That's
there's
a good
something
one.
that happened along
Yeah,
those
yeah.
lines.
That's a good
um,
one. That's a good
About
point.
15 years ago, a list was made with all the Hawaiian homelands and ceded lands that were toxic. The guys were on my island, Pohakuloa, Hawaiian homelands, bombed to the point of radioactivity, we can't use it. There's a very good example of trust land set aside for legal purpose that we can't use because the federal. But we're seeing that now in Makua Valley, that ceded lands, it's toxic,
Yeah,
and the
zero.
bombs that missed Makua went into
Zero.
Hawaiian homelands.
There's no report.
So
Yeah, no report.
So where do we go after this letter? Like for the next meeting?
Okay, for the next meeting, everybody sends me their comments on this letter. I revise the letter and bring a new letter in. I also bring in a second letter, which will go to the counties. Okay,
Can you send me a soft copy of that too?
yes,
Okay.
I will.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, and then we'll vote on it. Then also at the next meeting, we'll discuss further whether or not and how we're going to pursue a possible financial review and how much. So
So should we then in between these two meetings, get like possible quotes from companies so that we know a ballpark figure, what we're talking about?
yeah,
yes,
I think so.
yeah,
I would just go and ask NNK. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They might have some.
well, we should
Well,
ask more
What
than
did we
one.
pay?
Everett
No,
has a
yeah.
record of what we paid.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. If Everett finds the
Yeah, we could at
He
least
will.
go with that. And
Yeah.
if we had Lewis here, maybe he could help us too. He probably knows
Yeah,
he probably has a pretty good idea off the top of his
I
head.
mean, it would be good if we could come up with at least 3 possibilities. We can look at them. They can look at what NNK did and, you know, give us an assessment and a cost for their contract. But, you know, we can't do NNK, but they might have some good recommendations, and then we just see
Mhm.
what we can do.
I would assume that the NNK invoices, or at least at the very end, the final invoice would include the amount of time worked on. And so
Yeah,
that gives you a gauge on how much time the
Right.
audit team would require
yeah,
to replicate this updated version. And then you could then multiply that by the billable hour
Yeah.
that they're doing now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
So who's gonna do that?
We can do it. I'll assign someone to do that, to get, basically determine what we paid, what the hourlies were. I know that exists.
maybe we could ask Lewis too, because he's, you know, because that's his expertise is
Mhm, mhm.
audit. and stuff. So who should ask him? Me? Is that the
Just-
you
just shoot him
do
an
it,
email.
look?
No,
No, okay,
well, whoever.
Yeah.
yeah,
can
whoever.
send him
We
a
can
memo.
define exactly what information we are, and we
Yeah,
can
maybe-
send it.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
you and Everett could figure
Yeah,
out.
we'll
what we
figure out a
need,
letter,
And then,
just
and
to
then
scope it
contact
out.
Lewis to see
Yep.
if he has any ideas, and maybe, could you
And
ask
then-
him if he has any, you know, discretionary funding for something like that?
Yeah, no, we should ask.
Yeah, let's
What
ask
kind
him.
of
I don't
funding
know.
is provided this working group?
Yeah,
Because this was
Yeah. I'd be
mandated by.
Yeah.
There
Good
was
idea.
Alright.
supposed to be
Good
some
idea.
funding, but it
Alright.
was not allocated, and it was deliberate that it was not, colleagues. You know, because other
Yeah.
working groups coming through the legislature were provided with funding, but we were not.
well, this is already practically November. We could, you know,
I could find the legislation for you folks and send it over.
all right.
The prior legislation that did include the funding.
Yeah,
and the funding
yes,
amount. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know what, back in whenever Marjorie Bernster was Attorney General, there was, so I went to OHA with,
Was that during lingo?
yeah, no, Marjorie Bernster was during
Cayetano.
Cayetano. We went to a meeting, OHA trustees and AG and some other state people, and talked about blah, blah, blah. And there was a big fight about who was gonna pay for what. Big fight. And never an agreement on
Yeah,
who would
Well,
pay.
then,
Yeah.
and that should be part of the question to Louis. That
Yeah,
that maybe he's familiar with how
Yeah.
such a study can be
yeah,
paid for,
right,
because he's the budget director,
right, that's
holder of the monies.
right, so it's hard to me without him.
I don't know. I'm not worried about money. We have
So-
millions in the bank. It's
Yeah.
my first obligation. I don't want to waste
I'm
time
always worried
and
about
delay
money.
another 20 years because
Okay.
we didn't want to pick up.
Well,
on
we're
the
not,
bill.
okay, all right.
You know, we got to pay for it. We
But I don't
should
wanna-
put it in our discussion for the broader board where we're going. Because
Okay.
where we're going is doing work at their direction. We have to do it with trustees. Trustees, we need a budget. We're gonna try find matching. But in the event we don't, we're gonna need a supplemental budget allocation.
Well,
If we
Okay.
don't get it, we're not gonna do our work.
okay. Anything else?
Coordinate schedules.
Okay, but we don't have.
I know we don't
No,
have the other
we
people.
gotta
who are
wait
All right,
for
let's
present.
pick, let's pick, and then we'll send some dates out
Yeah.
that we are
That
available.
is to be Tuesday.
The 17th. Maybe afternoon is better because maybe does the governor like to meet in the mornings?
Yeah,
Actually,
crises
really, we
always
should
get
check with
answered in the
Dawn.
morning, right?
I
Yeah,
think
Because
more-
of the
there's
news
more
cycle.
availability in the afternoon.
More
All right.
availability in the
Yeah.
Yeah,
afternoon.
but they were
defer to their
both busy in
schedules.
the afternoon. That's why we made it in the
Yeah.
morning. Maybe if you can find out anything about what DHHL is doing with the feds
Oh, yeah.
for mapping and, they're doing now down to meets and bounds of
Yeah, some
parcels.
limited, they're doing some limited
But-
mapping.
Yeah, but what are they doing and how much is being expended and who's paying? Is it the feds or? I'm pretty sure the feds are paying, but do they have to pay anything?
Yeah.
And for the DHHL is doing,
They're working with DOI, I believe.
yeah,
think-
DOI.
and I
They're
think
working
that's
with
come-
that guy. What's his name?
Office,
Kaloy.
Yeah,
Kaini,
him.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's,
Native
that's coming through Office of Native Hawaiian Relations.
Yep.
They're coordinating that
I'm
study.
not impressed.
Okay, well, let's just find out what they're doing so that we have all the information on any and all inventories being done.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to do anything about it, probably.
So should we do a 1:30 on,
All right,
I think it's good to check with Dawn. That might be a good idea. Because she probably is. She's a department head. She got her morning meetings.
I'm more available on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, only because Tuesdays and Thursdays I have to pick up my daughter.
okay, well, that's a
Two.
good excuse.
Two.
Are we adjourning the meeting? We can talk about when the next meeting is.
Yeah.
Not, why don't we adjourn the meeting, Chair? Is that okay?
Chair,
Yeah.
can we adjourn the meeting? We need Millie here. We want to take a vote. We need 4 of you to adjourn the meeting.
We will stay here.
Yeah.
No, I wanted to set up a place in the office where we can have all the records, like what Ryan had given to us earlier. Because I'm not carrying mine with me, but when I come in the office to work, I want to access some of the documents. So I know that this is a pig inquiry, but you know what I'm saying? We need to have some master binders with everything, so we don't have to carry everything back and forth,
okay,
you know.
let's adjourn the meeting and then we can,
Okay, members, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. All opposed say no. Nobody opposes. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, how are we gonna divide up the dessert?
Well, in
Thank you
respect to
for bringing
Charlene, Ina,
this.
and
Really Moving here.
whoever was
Very
head of
Thank you
BNF
for
at the meeting
bringing
we
this.
had, that